Good tidings, ladies and gentlemen of the lodge, and welcome back. Today we are serving up a Final Fantasy video, but this one is going to take us to the highly anticipated mainline game, Final Fantasy XVI. There is a lot of mystery surrounding the plot of the latest installment, especially when considering one character in particular, Joshua. Joshua, in a lot of ways, is the motivating force for the plot. As we know, Clive's adventure is ignited by his thirst for vengeance when it comes to the death of his younger brother. But it is my estimation that Joshua's story is going to be one of death and rebirth. Curious to learn more? Then get ready as we dive deep into the world of Valisthea. So I have several reasons for believing this will happen. On one hand, it is worth considering that Joshua is Phoenix's dominant. And as we have seen, there is some gameplay involving the Phoenix summon. However, whether or not this suggests Joshua's survival is inconclusive. But let's consider the Phoenix for a moment. When we think of the archetype of the Phoenix, we picture something that rises from the ashes in rejuvenation and rebirth. Putting archetypes aside for just a moment, we also see that this is a symbol that the Final Fantasy series has used ever since the beginning. As we know, what item is it that revives a dead party member? A Phoenix Down. Obviously, that naming scheme is no accident. I believe what we are dealing with here with Joshua will be that of a literal phoenix rising from the ashes of death. Before I move on, allow me to propose that it seems as though all dominants will have a relation to the archetype of their icon. Allow me to explain. Let's take Clive for example, whose icon is the Fire Lord Ifrit himself. Clive as a character has a heart that burns for vengeance, to avenge his fallen brother. Then let's take Jill, Shiva's dominant, a woman separated from her parents as a child. Would there not be a heart as cold as ice lurking within her? In fact, we see her go from a more happy child to a more stoic adult just in the trailers alone. In fact, even the website mentions that upon being torn apart from Clive and Joshua later on is what awakens the Shiva icon within her. Perhaps there is more than meets the eye when it comes to a dominant's relation to their icon. We already see how this can come into play for Joshua should he have a death and rebirth arc. And we also see how it plays into Clive and Jill as well. We'll have to wait for the game to come out before we can see how it relates to Sid, Benedicta, Hugo, and the rest. But another point I want to bring up is an interesting one. Take this interview with Yoshi P at PAX East when discussing Clive's character. He mentions we will see Clive in his teens, 20s, and 30s. He also mentions that somewhere along the journey, Clive will lose his thirst for revenge. Now, Yoshi P gives a very vague reasoning for this. Let's listen in.
その弟を殺された復讐というものに取りつかれた状態で始まります。その旅路がどんな結末を迎えていくのか、ぜひ皆さんの手でお確かめいただければと思っています。
Our story starts with Clive obsessed in his pursuit of revenge for the loss of his brother. But across his journey, that will slowly change through chance encounters that ultimately open his eyes to a whole different world.
Chance encounters. Now, I don't know about you, but if chance encounters are responsible for him losing his thirst for revenge, my first instinct is to think that he will find out that his brother is indeed alive. I, of course, could be wrong about that, but given that we have seen some Phoenix gameplay, the archetype of the Phoenix is about death and rebirth and rising from the ashes. Seeing that the dominants and the icons may have this archetypal relationship with one another, as well as hearing that Clive's quest for vengeance will be changed by chance encounters, I think it leaves enough room for us to speculate that Joshua, if he isn't alive, will have a rebirth in one form or another. And for all we know, perhaps he is the man in the black hood we have seen in the trailers. But that's as far as I'm willing to take it. What do you make of all this, dearest viewer? Do you see Joshua playing out a death and rebirth arc? Do you think that Clive's quest for vengeance coming to an end alludes to this fact? Let me know. But anyway, you ladies and gentlemen, be good out there. Be good to yourselves and each other. And I will see all of you beautiful sickos and normies next time.